See, yes, he made the mistake of saying his wife's out of town and he had nothing to do. So you started with that, which means that we're going to keep you busy all day long.
That's all right. I need something to pass the time till we get to that
To get to
first
going.
dig.
Yeah, I know.
What is the timeline looking like for that?
I'm as anxious. I was telling them just the last week has been just got to get working, just got to get stuff to do, and got to get moving. And so I understand the anxiousness about it.
I guess
April
we don't-
still, we still don't know exactly. Depend on the weather, depend on the frost, depend on a lot of different things. But
So I was asking Mark if you have other projects going, you know, how everything is going to go with the flow, but I guess you don't even know that.
no, because we didn't know when we can start you. We're starting a project that's pretty local to us, and we'll jump right when the minute we can start digging on yours, we're going to start that even while we're working on that other project. So we can always manage 2 projects at a time, never more than that. And so the idea is we're going to start one knowing that at some point during that, hopefully we'll be able to start you.
Yeah.
And then as we get working through yours, we'll likely start another. But there's no hurry on that, where we're not in any way trying to stack them, or so likely, you know, along the way there'll be 2 projects.
Well, I guess that was a concern that we didn't hold
No,
your,
no. You're not holding us up at all.
because of the size of the
Yep.
scope of the
Yep.
project, where you
Yep.
could make it work within your
Yeah,
scheduling
yeah,
and
yep.
stuff. So
Yeah, move that back. You hit it with the back of your thing. Yep. No, that's we kind of know that going in, especially with the house not being there yet. You know it. So the assumption is we'll get in there as soon as we got the green light to go on your end. And my thought was going to be they get the walls in the basement in, at least then we have a basement floor. That's our cue to start once we have an elevation. So
now you guys were in Vegas for a cement expo, and
Yep.
apparently not everything that is in Vegas stays in Vegas.
no, not when we go to Vegas. Not even close.
Did you notice that?
Yes.
So we all went to Vegas, and we brought a lot back from Vegas and a lot of information about it. The concrete show is gigantic. It is a massive, massive show. And we go every other year or so. I think Mark and I have been a few extra times, but it's just phenomenal what's available. And, you know, we don't see 90% of the new technologies that come out. You know, who do you, like in the concrete business or pool business, who exposes that stuff to you? Suppliers.
Right.
Well, the suppliers have 800 new items, and so they pick a few that they showcase. Well, there's so much available, and without a show like that, we would know the majority of the stuff.
So then we went to Atlantic City where we filmed something specific to solving some challenges in Bud's pool.
Oh, yeah.
We mentioned it probably before, but if you want to go into
Well,
detail.
So we sat and talked for quite a while with the endless pool people that do
Okay.
and so I got a little bit more of the lowdown of exactly how they work and and it appears everything's a really good green light for that. So that's kind of one of those things that I wake up at night thinking about, the being able to control the flow of that water
Right,
as
right.
much as we're going to be able to. And he did say that someone had built a huge lazy river that they hadn't calculated the water flow correctly, and whoever the construction company was, bought several of these units as
Wow.
ancillary, and it solved the problem. So, you know, with us knowing that's the system that's going to work anyway, they have enough of experience now to know that, and I intuitively know what should work or not mostly. And so that was exciting because it was like hands-on, touch it, feel it, talk about it. So we did some interview stuff, but then we also, you know, Katie set it up where I talked ahead of time about this challenge that we have and what are we going to find to overcome it, and here's this product that's going to work perfectly, and not only perfectly, it's better than I would imagine. The ability to control the actual speed of the water so easily.
Now, is that variable?
It's variable.
It's variable.
It's
So
variable.
It's kind of like the river pumps, but like you said, that's the first time I heard about using the endless pool pumps
Mhm.
versus the river pumps.
Hmm. Well, the big difference is you're not removing the water and then pumping it back. You're
You
just
don't need-
taking the water and putting a current into it.
Because the river pumps, they were talking 11, 12-inch pipe
Oh yeah, easily.
and a full loop
Yep.
coming
Yep.
back, shooting out.
Yep, you got to draw out and then put back. And the challenge with that is now your intake and your suction. That causes all kinds of issues with, 12-inch intakes and stuff.
And
So
it sounds like the operational cost of the electricity might be higher with the other pumps, the river pumps.
the river pumps would be way higher. These are all run by simple hydraulic motors. So you're not running 5 horsepower pumps. You're running half horsepower pumps that are, motors that are running hydraulic pumps.
Okay.
So your operating cost goes way down. Plus your long-term maintenance goes way down, and your winterization goes way down. All of those things become easy, because if we want, those are removable.
Really?
A simple disconnect of 2 hydraulic lines and away you go, versus any blowing out and winterizing massive 12-inch pumps and stuff. Yeah, so that part is cool. One thing that's cool about it. There's tons of stuff that was cool about it, but that
So
was.
you talked about using a certain kind of rebar. Are you still in line with what you're?
Yep. So we talked to at the World of Concrete. I sought him up. Gator Bar is a what did he call? You weren't standing there, I don't think. I called it a fiberglass reinforced bar, and he said, well, technically it's a basalt fiber bar. So in the world of concrete for all those years, there's always been fiberglass reinforced re-rod, but it was always so cost prohibitive. The cost per foot was way higher than steel, like 2 and 3 times the cost of steel. Well, this guy that turns out to be a kid I grew up with, and know his family's from here in town, in Brighton, and they were in the welding business. They owned a couple different they manufactured welding rod. So he was already in kind of that manufacturing thing. Well, he developed with Michigan Tech this process to use raw materials and create these bars that are basalt fiber. It's kind of like a fiberglass fiber bar, and each bar is now, the price is comparable to half-inch steel, but all the benefit is, number one, it's super light. A bundle of 25 20-footers weighs 49 pounds. Well, 25 half-inch rebar 20-foot long is 800 pounds. I mean, just the moving it is maybe not 800. How much would you say 25 bars, a 20-foot half-inch bar? A half-inch bar is pretty heavy, just one of them. Yeah, I know. 25 in a bundle is 49 pounds versus 300 pounds, 400 pounds at least. So and the easy thing is it's easy to cut as well.
Okay. So you use something different to cut it with, or the same?
Use something else to cut it. Any concrete blade will cut it, which we found another cool product out there. But the huge advantage to it, and that's why everyone's tried to push for it, but the cost was prohibitive, is you don't have the galvanic action, you don't have the breakdown. Why do our bridges and stuff fall apart? Because the steel inside starts to rust.
Right.
Rust and expand and contract and all those things happen, where this, not at all. And his business is exploding by unbelievable amounts, just percentages, and all the data is there, and it's really cool. So we're going to use probably about 90% of the bar will be that. There'll be some steel in like our archways, not for the long term, but for the support while constructing. I'd be a little uncomfortable not knowing the full extent of what the weight capacity is for that stuff. So on our arches and stuff, likely that'll be a combination of both, but everything else should be the gator bar, which is pretty
tell me
cool.
a little bit about this grotto and how is this different than a lot of the other projects that you've done?
Well, the swim into part of the grotto, in terms of structurally, will be fairly similar, but the lazy river grotto, which is technically a separate structure,
Okay.
that again, because it's much longer. Instead of encapsulating a 10-foot circle and doming over, now we have to dome whatever that contour is going to be. So there's going to be a lot more chance for detail. That's what's really cool. If we had one little spot, there's not much you can do, but if I can take you and I could take you into a bit of a cave, it gives me the ability to play with light. And that's why we don't just want it open end straight to straight. We need to do a curve of some kind so that you don't go into it and see light out. We're going to need to take you a little bit of a journey so that I can play with your mind a little bit with light and that stuff going on in the visual of, because if it's just 5 feet long and you go in and you come out, it's not really a cave. I want you to be able to spend a enough of time in there that your eyes get used to the dark and then they get used to the light again. So there's a lot to the construction of that to pull this off the right way, and so that's all my focus. The rest, as far as I'm concerned, I can build the rest in my sleep. This one's been driving me bonkers in terms of getting it right. Not doing it. I can do it, but I want to get it like right. Not just adequate, but all the way.
Yeah. So this is a nighttime swim as well as daytime then.
Absolutely.
Because of the lighting.
We're going to play with the lighting on the inside. Mm-hmm. But see and hopefully with just the shape that we make it is that the lighting inside is functional during the day and the night.
Okay.
So you get a different experience while you're in it, but certainly at night you get a different experience because then you're going to have a whole nother set of light, which will be cool.
So here's an interesting question. I was talking with Mark a little bit about sound. Is that because the grotto and the river part of the grotto is going to be like that maybe some kind of sound effects might be in order?
There's absolutely room for that.
Echoing,
There's room for that. I've also been thinking about putting some sound in the water. So they make underwater speakers,
okay,
which are really kind of cool. Did Mike Wilson ever get those hooked up? How are they?
They're okay.
I don't think for the pool, but I was thinking in the lazy river because it's a narrow and small space. How cool that would be to be able to use sound underwater, not just above water, but underwater.
Yeah, because you're creating this experience with visual and light.
And it's
just
all
have another sense.
You want the tactile. You want it. I call it tactile visual. I try to explain it as that. Is that it's this combination of your emotions, but also your senses, and which that tactile visual applies in a lot of different things that most people never even think about. They purely think visual, and while visual is okay, you need more. I mean, we need those extra tactile senses to make it a really good experience.
So I have a question for you. What do you think in this project versus the past experiences that you've had, what excites you the most as far as something new and different?
Well, the thing that is new and different is the lazy river. Okay. And not so much the lazy river as its combination with this cave structure. To me, that's where we're going to spend unbelievable amount of time creating. And that's why I go over and over that. I built that thing. Usually I say I build something 100 times in my head. I built that 1,000 times in my head. And I probably build that in my head every night. I mean, this is
so
something.
There's no backing out of this.
You can't get out of this one. Doggone it, no. If you do, I'm going to have to. I don't know what I would do, but yeah, because I love to be in it. And my brother-in-law Mike was here last night, right? And we sat and had a conversation. Mike worked for the government, all kinds of secret stuff. Well, when he retired early. He kind of had to get out. He had some health issues. He came to work for me, and it was right as I took over the pool company. And so he spent the first 15 years with me. Now, I had already been in it for a while because I worked for the previous owner of the company, but Mike and I talked about that, how I never wanted to do the same thing. And he argued with me all the time about, look, just get on the train track and just do what you've always done. And I would say, no, I don't want to. I don't ever want to just do the same thing over and over and over. And the result of that, like he said, it required me to be in on every project. He goes, half the time we didn't know what you wanted us to build, so you had to be there. And that hasn't changed. So what it's done is it's forced me to be there, which I love. I'd rather be there than in the office or anywhere else. And so then I get to play, and then they have to figure out what I'm thinking. You know, and that's what's going to be a little more interesting about the project too. We think we talked when you were at the office that we want other people to make choices. So I want to create 3 design options and let the crowd choose, let the viewers choose. You know, any one of those 3 options is something I would do. So this is triple the work for me, because each little element I need to do 3 of. I have to create 3 ideas, and then we're going to share that with the audience and let the girls make those decisions and stuff. So
I wanted to tell you the pond that's going to be the backdrop for the pool. It's risen about 3 feet,
Oh,
so
it has?
it crests
Oh, good.
over into the creek.
oh, it does.
So it looks like a river
good,
going through.
Good.
So,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts? I know you talked about a lot of times where a vanishing or a zero edge makes sense and doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
I think the only way that we do it is if we can get a line of sight.
So,
I mean, until we can kind of cut the yard down, I wouldn't even want to venture exactly what it would look like.
Gotcha.
But I would definitely make that decision. I don't want to do it just to do it. There's no anything in me that would want to do that feature just to do it. I would only do it if it's going to work.
Okay.
If we can visually get the look that we want, then I think it'd be awesome. If I can't get the visual, I'm going to be the first one to say, cut. And if we can't, I'm okay with that too. If we do it, it'll be awesome. It creates a whole nother set of nightmares for Mark. It doesn't change much for me. It changes a lot for him, a lot. But that's okay. That's okay. So.
But if he was
Yeah.
bored, he wouldn't be as happy.
That's right. Yeah. We don't want Mark to be bored, so we need to keep challenging him.
This is great. I love the questions Bud keeps coming up with because they're super relevant and
Yeah.
unexpected.
So there's probably not one day or sometimes maybe not too many hours that go by without Vera and I thinking or talking about the project too.
It's probably both ways then, because it comes up in every conversation all the time. And I imagine, okay, this sounds a little weird, but I imagine most nights when I'm trying to fall asleep, I'm building something in your yard. Most nights. I'm noodling on how exactly I'm going to do this, how I'm exactly going to do that, and I spend a lot of time in that.
So like I told you before, yes, Vera and I were still coming up, finalizing everything with the house, and it has been a very long process. And you said, you know, let's just forget it and I'll put a double wide up there and have the pool. I mean, this pool is the most important thing. It's either that or have the shop in the pool, one of the two.
Yeah.
But that's how much important it is to us to have this experience that we can enjoy with family and friends and just be kind of a staycation.
It's going to be a crazy cool environment. I know that much. Is that it's just in everything that I see, it's.
Follow-up question for Bud. Did you expect the pool to become so important to you when you first started considering the pool?
Boy, we have this picture of the house and a nice rectangular pool out back that came with that house that we looked at online, you know. And we thought, well, that's too extravagant for us. And so we just focused on building the house. And Vera said, well, we'd like an in-the-ground pool. We've always had an above-ground pool. And I said, okay. And so we looked at some of those pools like we see some pictures of here. Well, that's nice. And the builder thought, wow, that's really nice. And then we started to Vera started to do a little research. And she came on your website, and the more we got to looking and watching some videos, it says, yeah, that's what we got to have. We got to have that. So nothing less than that was going to meet the bill for us. So when we contacted Sandy we emailed her, and he said, well, give us a picture, and you know, you got a picture back of this wide open fields of 18 acres. Yeah, that's going to really help. So from there, it was kind of a process and going forward.
Isn't it interesting, the power of a dream? I think that's a good case study in you had one idea in mind, but then possibilities allowed your mind to grow and open up, and look at where it goes from a simple rectangle pool to something that's going to be tactilely and visually sensational. in every piece, in every part. And each of them are challenged to do their part to ensure that happens. And they want to do that, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I don't know who, I think it was Sandy that talked about a lot of moving pieces.
Yes.
I've always thought about that. There's a lot of moving pieces.
There's a lot of moving parts. And that's, what I really appreciate about the gang that's here is their hearts are in it. Their hearts are in it, and they're in it to win it for you. Because if they win it for you and they do the best that they can do, they win themselves. And it's cool. You'll see that, and as they work, they're not working for the money, they're working for you, which is really cool. And that continues to surprise and delight me, because you just hear about people unhappy with their jobs or unhappy with their whatever, and yet we get to dance around every day and just enjoy the experience. You know?
One thing that's really puzzled me is having a seasonal business. I mean, we're a little bit seasonal,
Yeah,
but
we're
your
really
business
seasonal.
is really seasonal.
Yeah.
And how do you manage that, you know? I mean, you gotta hustle when the temperature, when the weather's right,
Yeah.
but when it's
you gotta,
not.
you gotta hustle hard, and you gotta try to put enough away, because all of a sudden it stops.
Yeah.
But so in all those years, it was literally like starting a business over every year. For the first 20 years of me doing this it felt like, or 15 years was, the business ended, and you like closed up the business, and then you started over with all the same challenges and all the same need for money, all of that. And now in more recent years, it's become a year-round business. Now there's slowdown times, but we've been able to do other things and keep people working. Where at one point there was just nothing to do, and then people just had to go home, and hopefully they got another job and came back. Like Mark would have another job, and sometimes we could get him back, and there were some years we couldn't get him back, and then Sandy would beg and plead and cry on the phone, and Mark would come back again, and now we've been able to hold him down for a few years.
So tell me, Al, how these shows that you go to, like the cement show, the pool shows, how much do you learn year after year? Is there always something new?
There's always something, but we have a little different focus. We have a very non-business focus when we go there. It's about camaraderie. It's about getting the gang together and letting them see things in a different way. So it's not just what I learned, but I see something completely different than she sees versus he sees versus like we had 3 newcomers that had never been out to Vegas before. And so there's that awe of that, but at the show itself, they all saw different things. So when we could talk about it, and that's why we do so much video, and when we're sitting there talking, someone would go, hey, did you see this thing? You got to come over to this booth. Where I walked right past that booth and never saw a thing, but new set of eyes saw things. So Kaylee was sitting here yesterday when we were live on Facebook, and we were talking about the value of going to the show. And you could look at it as a dollar investment and go, their ROI is pretty low. You're not going to make any money by spending that money to go there. But the intellectual property and the personal growth that happens, and the discussions, I think one of the discussions we had, what was the discussion was about trusting, or respect, and what that means to each person. And we're all different ages, and we all had very drastically different opinions about it. But we're never going to do that when we're sitting at the office. We're never going to do that when we're working. We might, no, but a whole gang like that, but a whole group about respect, and is it deserved, is it earned, should you respect, in this particular conversation was, should you respect an old person just because they're old? And we all had very different views based on childhood, based on, I had a very different take than some of the others. But so it's those parts that make us better when we come out to you. So we could look at that and go, okay, this cost us this amount of money, and how does it translate into money? It doesn't. It translates into environment. It translates into them getting along and having fun every day. Now, although we also bring cool things home, one of the things that the girls were thrilled about, and it was so much fun, was the DeWalt makes the FlexVolt. Have you seen any of their FlexVolt powerless stuff, or their cordless stuff? They had normal cordless stuff. Yeah, but what they did is in the last 5 years they came up with this FlexVolt. And so now their batteries are, some of them are 60 volts, and some of them are 20 volts, and you can put multiple ones together to run like a table saw, 120 volt table saw. So you have 3 different batteries you click in, and you can run a table saw, or take the battery out and put it into a chop saw, or take it out Well, the girls came across, DeWalt had a 9-inch concrete cutting saw. Well, that's the biggest challenge for girls getting those saws started all the time because they're gas powered. This one is pull the trigger, it starts, let it go, it stops. So it's an instant on and off. They don't have to do anything to keep the batteries charged. Now they can cut all their stone, cut all their tile, cut all their, like that alone was priceless. Well, they had a show special, so I went to buy one, and I walk in with 3 girls, right? And we're like, the guy's like, I said, this is they're who you're using it, and they're all touching it and playing with it and looking at it and giggling and poking each other. Look how cool this is. And and World of Concrete is like 65,000 men and 3 women. I mean, it's just all, it's a man-dominated thing. And there's
no lines for the ladies' group.
it was crazy. There were the men's lines they would be like, "Where'd you go?" "Oh, I was waiting in line to go to the bathroom." And the girls would be in and out. It's a completely different world. Well, here's these 3 girls tickled about, "Here, let's take pictures," and they're holding it, and so the guy selling it to us is like, "Can I get a picture too?" Him with all the girls. But that solves a huge problem for me because now they can cut on demand anything they need to cut. I mean, so things like that I never would have expected. And that's, that investment in that piece of equipment saves tons of time and frustration, and because, as you well know, 2-cycle motors are not always easy to start, and the girls don't have the same muscle mass core that the guys do, so it's easier for them. Yes?